Hi everyone, we are back with another episode of theCORE. Today we're talking about something that we're all experiencing, especially two of us right here in the core team. Awoe and Serwah, myself and Blossom, we're about a year into this life, and that is post-grad depression, actually. Navigating what it means to move away from a space that you've been in for 4 years, really developing a strong sense of self. And then for the class of 2020, having that abruptly put on an end because of the coronavirus. So the first question for all of us, I want everyone to talk a bit about what was, your emotional state leading up to and then following graduation. Who wants to kick off? Somebody has to do it.
Well, I could go ahead and start. I think for me, leading up to graduation, I was very concerned about my life post-grad, especially it actually started in the spring of my junior year. Because I felt like, once senior year starts, I need to know where I'm headed. I need to know what grad school I'm going to, if I am, what jobs I'm going to have applied to, if that's the route I was going to take. Because I still was kind of unsure what sort of school I wanted to go to or what sort of job I wanted to get. I was in this state of limbo. And I was just concerned that I would graduate from Hopkins and not have anything set for me. Like that, it was a legitimate fear. I remember last summer, so that's summer 2019, I worked for this organization, this volunteer organization at the med campus in a hospital. And I was in my little office space and I was talking to my other colleagues about, post-grad life and stuff like that. And I remember just kind of panicking because I just had no idea what I wanted to do in a sense. So there was that part of it. And then my other concern was just kind of losing the friends that I had in terms of the close proximity we were to each other. Mm-hmm. I feel like graduating high school and graduating from college is so much more different because with high school, a lot of the times people tend to stay in the same community, whereas in college, everybody's coming from different states, different countries, and everybody's just kind of going back to where they came from or probably leaving to go to completely different places. And I feel like it's a lot more harder to connect to people once you graduate from college. So yeah, my fear was losing that close proximity I had with the friendships I had formed and the people I'd bonded with over my 4 years of college. And my other fear was what I was going to do with myself after I graduated.
Yeah, I totally feel you. Those fears were real. I remember me too, last summer I had a panic. Basically the whole summer I was thinking oh man, we're already here, senior year is really coming, and before you know it, it's gonna be the end. And I think I spent a lot of my summer and fall semester getting ready for it because I had this vision that, oh my gosh, it's gonna be at least the summer afterwards is gonna be a good time, get ready for whatever comes next. I think you're right. I was also grad school or working, and the process of making it happen because the thing is as adults, you have to work to make it happen or else nothing will happen. It's not leaving high school. It's we're all going to college and going to this next step the next step after college is really all on your own. And if you don't do anything, if you're not thinking 6 months, 1 year in advance, nothing's gonna happen. And that's a very real, scary thought for me. Yeah.
For me, honestly, I had to really think about my place, I guess now, well, no, just last year, I guess. I was okay. I mean, I think that I was obviously scared, but not in the traditional sense, because I had a job, I had a location in which I was gonna work. I think my only kind of fears were getting paid by the job and like getting paid more.
The money.
We get it.
This is terrible. I mean, there weren't like traditional like fears of like, oh, what am I gonna do next? It's like I know I'm doing what I have to do. I had a job, thank God. Again, I was applying to other places, but ultimately I kind of knew where I was gonna end up, physically or otherwise. In terms of friends and social activities in life, honestly, my attitude towards that is kind of like, I mean,
Not
I hope we're
force.
friends. It's not by force. I think that's my motto with everything. Like, obviously, I would love to be friends with these people. If I'm not, it is not in God's will.
Wow.
So, that's how I felt. And I don't know if that is just like hypothetically speaking. In practice, I'm sure it's kind of different. But even now, like 1 year out, I have, I think, consistently spoken to a lot of friends. A good number of friends are also coworkers, so we ping all the time. We share stories. I talk to other friends pretty regularly. I don't live too far from Johns Hopkins either. Like I'm only, quote unquote, only 4 hours out. So I've been there maybe twice since I've graduated. So yeah, it wasn't too bad, I think, leading up to graduation.
Yeah. So I'm emotional, right? So I'm a Cancer, proud Cancer, birthday on the 16th, don't forget.
Gang, gang.
Right, Blossom and I. However, I was thinking about graduation since like sophomore year.
Oh man.
Especially the emotional aspect of that. And because I remember someone in the class of 2017, Bitsitsi, if y'all know her.
Oh.
She was a senior that was always around us, especially in the famous tech room. And she had said something that was very moving that year. And obviously it's very general advice that stands to impact us no matter how old we are. It's just like, just know who your friends are. And being at Hopkins, that was a very testing environment about like friendships, how long they last, being Blossom and I being a part of a squad that was maybe 30 people deep at one point in time. Going to parties, like once someone opens the door into a frat house or a basement, the line just keeps coming in. We called the vans, the Blue Jay shuttle. Okay, we're out. Okay, let's go in groups. We're going.
We're going.
And so, all of that naturally starts to fizzle out as time goes on. Just because based on hobbies and interests. And so I remember after that night in the tech room, hearing Good City's advice, I went to Chisam's place, another good friend of mine, ours that we know, a big presence on campus, going to her apartment and just crying to her and stating her like, wow, I think you're the one of the few people that I think I could then definitely trust and say and know that you are my friend no matter what. And because even now, I think, 2 years later, senior year was merely for me a matter of just like checking boxes. We went to campus job events. We went to Blossom and Peace for advice. Many of the people in my circle would contact Blossom, hey, how do we do this interview? How do we do this information? And Blossom was always that guru with experience from the jump, consistently. So leading up to senior year, it was definitely, I was emotionally ready for like the going away and the number of breakdowns that I've had with new people. It was definitely a natural occurrence for me just because I knew coming in, that fall, we would be going in so many different directions, right? Blossom in the Northeast still, some people going to school in the Midwest, some people going back home, some people even international. I wanted to ask, just following up then, since we're all grads now, how do we rebuild or reorganize ourselves now that we're no longer in Baltimore, Maryland on that campus? We're not a part of that 5,000 student body, but who are we now? I know that for myself, I typically start my intro saying where I'm from. That's never changed in where I am now, South Seattle, Washington, 206. It's also how I tell my story about why I even went to Hopkins, and then how I always go into detail about like, at first I wanted to do infectious disease, I wanted to do wet lab research, pipettes, and then after one summer of that, I was bored to death And I said, no, fuck this. Let me go into something completely different. And by a random and thankful connection at a mutual friend, Peace's birthday celebration, a grad student at the time had a company he was looking to grow in Lagos, Nigeria. And I always cite that as one of my elevator pitches about like, going into technology. What does that look like for everyone?
Yeah, I think for me, it hasn't quite hit yet. I think you were talking about having squads 30 people deep and like always being around people who are like excited about you and all that, like excited to do things together, like going to like the cafeteria or like, I don't know, like doing stuff together, like meeting up in the library and all that. And it doesn't fully hit that moment, like when we're all going to be consistently around people our age and our peers. Like there isn't gonna be another time like that ever again. Like we're not gonna be calling Blue Jay shuttles to go somewhere like ever again. It's like it doesn't like fully hit, and I think for me, excuse me, part of the reasons also like it all was all sort of cut short, and like there was no sort of like closure to like think about or like reflect on my experience and be like, like it's really, really ending, because it was all sort of cut short and everything was just abrupt, and like it hasn't fully hit. And plus like I've been at home these last couple months and I haven't really gotten a chance to like, I haven't been on my own anywhere, or I haven't started working, or you started going, I haven't really done anything yet. And so it's still like, I'm still like swimming in this like unknown, and like, I really don't know what's coming up next. But I'll definitely say that the slow realization and like consistent realization that it's not going to be the same ever again. Like I'm never going to see probably 90% of the people I went to school with again. And it's just, I don't know, I just have to keep like, it's something I have to accept and like move on with it.
Did you like 90% of the people you were around? I'm looking at Blossom's face, and I asked that, respectfully, because I covered my mouth because I don't care for 90% of Hopkins, to be honest. I care about TDA, I cared about ASA, BSU, I cared about, CCS, I cared about the people who ran for student government because they wanted to bring up these problems. I care about the people who really made protests during the 2018-2019 academic year about private police really real for me, regardless of particular background. So I respected that part of Hopkins. I really liked and enjoyed, and particularly the faculty that made us just feel good about ourselves. I know for me, that's Robbie Shilliam. I know Roberson in the biology department. Some other faculty, Dr. Emily Fisher. She was a great person to talk to as well. So yeah, did you really like 90% of Hopkins?
I mean, if we're being real, I think like it was definitely, I think I knew a lot of people on campus, and
Awoe was Mr. Popular, okay?
Awoe had like mad friends. I was like,
I know. You cannot walk down any street without somebody stopping Awoe to talk.
All right.
But as a result, like I knew a lot about what was happening in a lot of people's lives, and so like I in some way I do care about a lot of people, and I think that you're right. I think like my circle of like who my close friends are, that's tight, and like I know regardless of what happens, whether we're in college or the next like part, we'll always like be together, or like at least try to be, and like I care about those people. But I think it's also about like this shared experience that we had, and this thing that like we all like went through together. I'll never forget experiencing Donald Trump's election, freshman fall with like my floor mates, like regardless of like what terms we're on, like we experienced that, we cried together, and we had that moment together. I'll never forget the times I spent in Bible study with like all these like students, whether they're older or younger than me, and like it's like a shared experience. And even though like I don't talk to people on like everyday basis, but like the fact that like, hey, we once cried together, and even though we're not close or whatever, we're not going to talk or see each other again. I don't like, there's just something sentimental about that I'm definitely going to miss a little bit.
For sure. I want to hear Serwah's perspective. She also entered a world during her college career, entering the world of DST. and how, I don't know how that's, how are you envisioning and navigating that now as an alum? And if that's been a place of support just a few months out of graduation.
Well, I was intending, so if any of the listeners don't know what DSD stands for, I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, which is a public service organization for most, like, it's historically been Black women, but any woman who wishes to make an impact in the world is welcome to join our wonderful organization. But I was intending on joining the New York alumni chapter. So for Divine Nine organizations like mine, we don't stop after college, undergrad, which is, I think that's what Pan-Hellenic, at least that's what they call them. That's what happens with them. For us, it's like a lifetime commitment. So wherever you move, you kind of find a chapter that does the work of Delta. And I was planning on joining the New York alumni chapter, but with COVID being a major problem now, and Columbia is I'm going to grad school, and my grad school is no longer going to be open for the fall. I'm kind of unsure what I'm doing, because I don't know if I should still join the New York alumni chapter, or if I should find a chapter here in Ohio to join temporarily, but then for like 6 months, like I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm perpetually in a state of limbo. Like that's how I'm feeling right now.
Right.
And I think that COVID has not helped at all in that, because I feel like a lot of the things that I expected for this summer, or for the way this entire transition from, especially after I figured it out, the transition from college, from my undergrad career to grad school, the way I envision it is not what's happening right now. I had travel planned, I had expectations for how I would close out the undergrad, the year. I had expectations for that. I had expectations for grad school, and all of that has kind of been ruined, and that's not really helping me in terms of like my mental state of like feeling like I've actually, like, something that's actually changed in my life. I'm just kind of like there, so like everything, like joining a grad chapter, going to orientation for grad school, all of the things I could have done to end my senior year, like none of that happened. So it's just kind of like, it feels like nothing has changed, which isn't really helping me much in like defining myself. Going back to the question you asked earlier, Sami, like I'm still trying to figure it out, and I've had like 5 months to like where nothing's really been happening much to help me define who I am after leaving Hopkins.
That's real. And in the context of, because talking about post-grad depression, this has been something that's, it's not a new term, it's not a new phenomenon. I think Google's search analytics, if you want to look at the search trend, it's always been present, as old as Google's analytics even started, as old as 2004. And there's so many articles addressing it. Universities are always invested in addressing the problems that their alumni have faced and bring up. And some stats from the National Alliance on Mental Illness, 50% of all lifetime mental illnesses begin by age 14, and that goes up to 75% by the age of 24. So right around my age next week, right around that college departure age where your health becomes revealed to you in the times of great transition. And like Serwah had said, all transitions are put on a halt because we are in a new place as a world, as done by COVID. I want to bring the question to Blossom. You and I are both, 1 year into this. Have you noticed any significant, changes in your mental health, or just how you view yourself, your emotional state whatsoever?
Yeah, y'all know I don't, I'm not too sappy or nothing, but let me try to say what I can.
Okay.
I think when I first started my job, I was excited, but then I realized I was really bored with it every day. I think that in that realization when I started, for those of you who don't know, consulting is like project-based. you go on specific projects for 3 to 12 months at a time, usually, and you can go different projects in different sectors, so like financial sector, health sector, etc. For me, with my specific company, there's specific companies and industries that regions will have projects in. So I'm in New Jersey. My region that's popular here is like life sciences, a lot of pharmaceutical companies here. So when I started working for a pharmaceutical client, it was cool, but it was very boring. It was very mundane, and I didn't care about it. It was obviously I wasn't interested in it, but I tried to look on the bright side, like I'll learn something from it. And I think it hit me like in terms of like my mental, emotional state when I would travel to, it wasn't that far. I would travel every week to Princeton, New Jersey, which is about an hour and a half from where I live now. But I would stay there overnight because the commute would be a lot every morning and every evening. I would stay there, be in hotels. And, I think that's the glamorized part of consulting or even life after college. You're like, oh, you're traveling every week. Wow. But for me, I felt like it was terrible. Like I didn't like, my coworkers were not my friends. My friends were in North Jersey primarily, or in DC, right? DC, Baltimore area. We worked because we stayed there. We worked, longer hours, 5 to maybe like 7 o'clock, instead of 5 o'clock. Sorry. We worked longer hours, maybe till 7, 8 o'clock instead of a typical 5, that, traditional 9 to 5s would end. I had a lot of team dinners, which was beautiful, but also like I need my space. Sometimes for me personally, I like to detach because like you put on a front, especially as a Black person, especially as a young person, you put on this front and you want to leave and detach, but they're like, nope, let's go to dinner. Let's spend time with each other. Yay. So I'm like, awesome. So I would do that Monday through Thursday, come back Thursday night, be tired, sleep, and then Friday, I'm still working either from the office or home. Then it's just Saturday and Sunday, and that cycle. And it was only maybe 3 months that I've done that, 3 to 4 months, and I think it got cut short, similar to everyone else. In March, it got cut short, and just seeing that, I'm like, this is not my life. I cannot, I will not, and I do not want to live this life, because for me, I felt really empty. Not only was I unfulfilled by the work I did, I was unfulfilled by like activities outside of work. And I felt that even coming back home, where I had some friends, but it's only like very few that even stayed in the area or were like close to me or whatever, they weren't here. We couldn't hang out. I was really tired on weekends, so I didn't even want to hang out. I hadn't been home Monday through Thursday, so I'm like, I want to just sit in my house. And I think I was even talking to one of my good friends that had stayed in the area, New York, New Jersey area, for college and obviously post-grad. And she was asking me, so what do you do outside of work? And I really had to sit and think about it. I'm like, oh my God, I don't do
nothing.
She's very adventurous. So she was, even during the Corona, and I was like, not really down for this, but she was like, oh, I went hiking.
Everybody's faces, right?
I'm telling you, she's I like the energy, but not at this point, right? She was like, I went hiking, I went to dinner, I'm finna go to Dubai for my birthday. I was like, that is wonderful.
Over there.
Over there. She was inviting me, and I'm like, that's cool. Or we're gonna go skiing, she said. I'm like, skiing? She's Black. And I was
summer.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of
I got questions.
But a lot of questions. I was just thoroughly confused. Anyway, this long-winded rant is to say that I felt really empty, especially because of work and because of the unfulfillment, the stuff that I was doing, and the fact that I was traveling so much. Since then, I still feel really empty, like similarly to you, Serwah, that it's like a state of limbo because of this COVID stuff that's going on. I'm working, and it's like, okay, that's literally all I do. Maybe I eat too and sleep, and that's like, dang. So I tried to find some more hobbies to make sure like I'm doing things like do these TikToks or YouTubes or whatever, try to have fun. play my piano, do whatever I can just to kind of, and hang out with my family a lot. My little cousins are adorable. So I do that a lot just to try to maintain my mental health, if that helps.
For sure, thanks. Because, you know, I feel like we're the inverse of each other right after, you know, May 23rd, 2019.
100%.
Damn, I didn't even explain it. But I meant just in terms of like that stability that you do have in a job, and you find, and you later discovered, you know, it's not all that you envisioned to be. Whereas for me, you know, a lot of short-term stints. Thankfully, I got to work at Bloomberg Philanthropies in the city for the summer, and then I came home for a time, and then I said, I think around winter, senior winter, I was like, you know what? Let me just apply to this program just in case if nothing else works out. I advocate that for all of our viewers or anyone listening to always have a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, particularly free ones or even those that would pay you. And that program for me was going to Taiwan for 3 months. And that's where I was living my life, continuing my Mandarin Chinese studies, continuing how to be an adult, not even, you know, outside of college, but outside of the country where I'm literally by myself. Previously, I've always done a study abroad program similar to Serwah in a group of people where you may have an orientation. They may not come from your school, but you get a sense of who they are before you depart to one country or multiple. That was my time in Senegal briefly. However, this time I came as the one U.S. citizen by myself, ain't know nobody. I flew out Thanksgiving Day. I didn't get to enjoy that holiday with my family. And that was an experience where I got to connect with people. I heard English speakers. I got to meet a group of people from New Zealand. I made friends from Japan in my classes, where you have to be that adult that is willing to say hi to people and willing to go out at night and willing to do things by yourself. Thankfully, Taiwan is a very safe place where you can walk at night, especially in the big cities that I was in. So having that to be an experience where, you know, you would expect that general lull, that general decline in how many times you get to engage with people, as I always said in our age group, that was a lot. And that was, you know, supported financially. Shout out to the Taiwanese government. Shout out to that school. Always, always. Right. Because, you know, since, you know, post-grad depression, it sounds temporary, but when you're in the middle of it, when you're in the thick of it, it seems like forever. And some symptoms of depression that have come, I've noticed, and that others have recognized, it may not be what we imagine it to be. I know for myself beforehand, it may look as if, for some people, it's not getting out of bed until late in times. For some people, it's an extreme sense of loneliness and sadness that doesn't go away, even if you interact with your friends or family. It's about decreased motivation in the things that you really loved doing before. A loss of interest overall, a sense of disorganization, and maybe feeling you have no sense of time to do all the things that you feel like you need to do, as well as, again, just a general sense of hopelessness. So if anyone is feeling these symptoms, I would really implore you to see what other options are available for you. I think all of us, you know, as people who went to a public health school, those of us who have studied public health and worked to provide services for the public, we acknowledge and do believe that healthcare is a fundamental human right, even though that, especially mental health, it's very much treated in a carceral system. Whereas if you are the one with the problem, you are the one that needs to get fixed, even though as situations like the world pandemic shows us, faltering health is very normal, and everyone has something that they're dealing with and would like to improve on. So my next question would be, like, have any of us pursued counseling services in undergrad that they would like to, you know, speak out if they feel comfortable speaking on it? I know for myself, I counseling my senior year, group counseling, group LGBTQ counseling in particular, because senior year I just felt that sense of loneliness that I felt early on in my college career, but I'd love to open up for everyone else.
Yeah, I can start. But before I answer your question, I want to say, like, all those symptoms of like disorganization or loss of purpose or like motivation, like I definitely feel all of those and in like ranging amounts every single day. But we could talk about that later. As for counseling, I don't know. I came into college not really like I don't know, counseling and therapy and all that was always sort of stigmatized, and I always had like one idea of it, and it took going through college and being in a bunch of safe and brave spaces that sort of showed, and like being around people who cared about your mental health and like all that, like showed that, okay, this is I mean, we get physicals, we get checkups, I go get my eyes checked every 2 years, all these like regular things for our body, like why not our mental health, which is just as important as like our physical health. And so I didn't really explore that, and I think it took till my junior year to be going through some stuff to like really like open up to like another person, and I think that was like my first step in like on this like journey to like helping my own mental health. And unfortunately I didn't get to use any of the counseling services at Hopkins, but since graduating I started seeing one myself, and it's been like a completely different experience, and it's definitely helping, I think, with this transition period, and overall just with like my life and putting things into perspective, like having someone who wants to like just listen to you ramble and like share this is just something just so relaxing and cathartic about like just like unloading, and then they give you like sound advice or like good perspective. They're like, maybe you're at fault, and I'm like, maybe I am at fault. I don't know. It's just like,
who are you talking to? Perhaps you are the.
But yeah.
Well, for me, I like Awoe also. I'm from an African home, and I know for a lot of us, like counseling, therapy, what's that? Like that is, you better turn to your Bible. Like that's kind of the perception that has been created. So for me, for a long time, even though I did realize, I did notice, and I think we all know ourselves well enough to know when things are going wrong. And I started noticing that, but I was very adamant, and I was like, oh, if I go to the counseling center, if I talk to a therapist, like that's affirming that this is actually happening, and I wanted to ignore that I had any issues. So I still to this day have not. It would have been a great time at Hopkins since I was paying for it technically.
Yeah.
The counseling center for free-ish. But I had heard sort of like horror stories about the counseling center, so I didn't really want to use that as a resource. But I did have like advisors and sisters and other friends who were my sort of quote unquote therapy. Like it's just people that I could talk to and just get things off my chest, or who may be suffering similar things that I am, so they're able to give me some sort of insight as to what could help and how to address those situations. But I definitely would suggest that people go to professionals if you really do feel that you're in a state that talking to someone, simply talking to someone isn't going to help.
Very true.
I've considered it. Oh, sorry.
No, please.
Okay.
Go.
I've considered it. Yeah, like similar to y'all, growing up, and I've since instilled that in me.
Yeah.
And I think college has helped me like kind of unravel and unlearn, I guess, that narrative of like, if you go to the counseling center, there's something that's wrong with you. And that's not the case, right? Like you said, Awoe, if you have mental health, you need to do your due diligence for your mental health as well. I think for me, I started journaling, I think 2 years or a year and a half ago now. Okay. So that's been really helpful. If I think for me, I just have tendencies to get like just super like 0 to 100, like super mad for no reason or like something. And then I'll just be like, okay, this is annoying.
Oh, really?
I don't know why you people are laughing. Anyway.
No, that's because I feel you, same girl.
So, you know we're the same anyway. But that's for me. So I would go 0 to 100 real quick and then be like, just slowly decline into my like happy state again. And so I'll just kind of write it all down. So when I believe that I'm famous, it'll be, out there for the world to see. So I'll write it down.
She says this, y'all, when she's famous.
When
she's preparing.
And when I'm rich. So
Yeah.
It's not only helpful now, but in the future as well. So I journal, and it has helped a lot, because a lot of things I feel like, personally, I try to be a relatively private person in terms of like emotional stuff, obviously. So I don't even want a lot of people to know. I don't don't even want a lot of people to know certain things. So I'm like, all right, let me just write it down. Or like, I'll talk to certain family members who like know whatever the crux of what's going on for me. So yeah, but obviously I think professional help is, I've heard wonderful things about like people who have gone to therapy. A friend of mine who's been going to therapy, he said it's been helping, and then he had to, I think it does take time though, I think with any doctor, with any person that you're seeing, to see what is right for you, even when you're trying out like food, products, clothes, whatever, right? So I would definitely suggest for viewers and listeners to not let one experience that's bad define the rest of the experiences that you may or may not have in terms of therapy, or in terms of like any type of services or counseling services you might seek out. But I would definitely suggest it. I think that it's just helpful in general, and especially nowadays you see celebrities kind of normalizing it, like therapy Thursdays or therapy Tuesdays or whatever it is, and so you see them kind of grow and manifest like goodwill upon themselves just by going to therapy itself. So I think it's really helpful, but I'll try it out one day.
Hopefully one day. And right, just as Blossom said, we do live in a time where many things that we had cultural bias against are coming to the light, thankfully, and there are many things that are always been talked about are coming to the surface for the public to enjoy, especially mental health. And as we wrap up, as time has come, I want everyone to maybe state one thing that's been really grounding for them in context of the general post-grad quote-unquote depression, or maybe if they are also looking for ways to just improve their mental health overall. I know that for myself, it's been about the sense of connection and the things that I've accomplished in the past, typically done in groups of people. I was telling Blossom how a common friend of ours, all of ours actually recently reached out just to give me a suggestion or a referral for a job, and getting an interview the next day. I think little things like that. Right. Shout out to Corey Granger. Little things like that. Like, I know for myself, I believe and I know that this is very much temporary, and it's not going to be my permanent state of life. How about y'all?
Just one thing. Oh man.
Yes, we can't go on and on.
Right. I think just this idea of intentionality, and saying that like, this is what I want for my life, and so like taking steps to making it happen. I want to be physically active, so I will go on my walks and I will run regularly and work out regularly. I want to connect with the important people in my life, so I will reach out and I will do this. I want to be present socially, and I will do like the things that I have to do. But understanding that, also give myself the space to like, I'm human and I'm not perfect, so I have to like, it's okay to not be 100% on top of things all the time. So yeah.
I sigh only because I feel like I don't necessarily have anything that's grounding me right now. Hearing you guys speak is kind of giving me some sort of like inspiration or motivation to find a way to figure myself out, because I haven't been intentional, like always, like this, like I think we mentioned this earlier, like there's 100 different things that I want to do, but because I am in this weird
limbo
state right now, I feel like it's like I'm not doing any of them. I'm losing that intentionality. I'm losing those connections, like Sami was talking about. But those are definitely things that I agree definitely do help, because when I was in school and I had a purpose, I guess, those were the things.
You still do, damn.
Oh my God.
But no, what you're saying is real. It's real.
Yeah. Those are the things that I was doing to like ground myself, but without, I'm like in between two things right now. I'm not necessarily grounded just yet.
I think similarly to you, Serwah, I felt like very empty, like I said, especially with work and the work I was doing. I think for me, then my advice would be like, find things that make you happy, or just like keep you kind of sane. And that could be something that doesn't make you money, that makes you money, that, I don't know, what else, just helps you physically, mentally, whatever. If that's running, if that's playing instruments, if that's reading books, just hobbies, I think, just that make you feel like, okay, I'm not on this earth for no reason. Like you're still here and you're doing things and that makes you happy, and hopefully, you know, that can make others happy if it's like volunteering or something. But yeah.
Very true. Yeah. And with that, that wraps up another episode of The Core. All right. Do we want to talk about the topic or continue the conversation?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I try to hide my face. I try.
So what happened? I was typing something.
No. I was saying, like, do we want to talk about it? Like,
I mean, are y'all okay? Like,
oh, talk about what we just talked about?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
no, I'm just saying, like, mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought it was. I thought.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, not not as in the quality of the episode, just like the material. Since we're hearing from Serwah, you know, like she's still. I mean, we're all still working things out.
But I found it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Kind of purpose.
Yeah, definitely. I think I agree with Serwah. I think it's definitely hard. I think we were talking about this before we started recording.
It's still recording.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. Bloopers. So just after 4:05. Okay, and so that'll be the time.
Sorry, Sami, broke up again.
What?
Give it a second.
I'm gonna start recording. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I good now?
Yeah.
Man.
Is it your internet at home?
Yes. Serwah, it's his internet.
It's pretty bad.
Oh, dang.
Hey, yo! Is there another thing
Girl,
we use?
when I'm telling you, I don't know if it's all Seattle. I'll FaceTime this boy. Half the conversation is gone. I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Can you hotspot Sami? I don't even think he can hear us.
Oh no, we lost him. Oh man.
Wow.
Maybe
can you? He shouldn't record then, right? Like,
huh?
He should not record. Like, would it be? It would mess up, right? If he recorded.
Oh, like
I don't think it would matter. Regardless, right?
Would it? I don't know how. I mean,
I started the recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if it connects with like Wi-Fi or the other thing.
You ridiculed me off of Zoom. Yes. So hopefully now I'm closer to my router. I don't know if that does anything of importance.
You seem clear now, so.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Sam, you'll be the opening and introduce the topic.
Yeah. Sounds good. How do we want to introduce ourselves by name? Do we want to do alphabetical order? Oh, we're just
because we'll like later we'll record like the intro, and then we'll like put it there, right? Is that's what we said? Mm-hmm. And like the closing bit, we'll also like record it, like it's been us, like
sure.
Catch us next week or whatever. Yeah.
And
so you can like, I mean, if it feels more natural, we can like say all that and then get into the conversation. Then we just cut whatever out we need to.
Mm-hmm. Let me just take a look at the question that I want to start it off on. Okay. Has everyone hit recording on their phone yet? Everyone did that?
I haven't hit it yet. But...
Okay. I'll just set mine.
All right. I just started recording.
All right. Sounds good. All right.